Hello, everyone. Welcome to the real estate market analysis for Almaden Valley, California for November of 2009. My name is Robert Whitelaw, and I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of California. I'm also a member of the National Association of Realtors and a certified E-Pro. I'm also the president and CEO of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services, servicing all of the Silicon Valley area. Now, there's a variety of ways to get in contact with me. Probably the first and best way is through my website at www.soldbyrobert.com. In addition to being able to get access to all of my weekly podcasts called Real Estate Realities at my website, you can also articles I've written on real estate and also get access to probably the best multiple listing service search tool available for the area from San Francisco down to Monterey. It's all map based. It's easy to navigate. You zoom in on the areas you want to see. You don't have to worry about where one city limit begins and another one ends, and you can set up your searches just based on areas, which is a lot easier for most folks. Go ahead and check that out if you have a need. All you need to do is just go and start searching. It's a great tool. I hope you get some use from it. Now, if you'd like to email me directly, you can send those to robert@soldbyrobert.com. If you prefer to call me directly, just dial 408-852-0525. If you'd rather chat online using one of the popular instant messaging tools like AOL Instant Messenger, Google Talk, or Yahoo IM, just use the screen name The Rebel Broker. If you'd prefer to chat on Skype, the screen name there is Rebel Broker. Now, referrals are always appreciated. If you or anyone you know is interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate in the Silicon Valley area, I'd be happy to help any way I can. But even if you're not in any of the areas that I service directly, I can at least help you find the right agent for your needs. So feel free to get in touch. Let me know what you're interested in, whether it's buying, selling, or investing. And then I'll jump through the hoops to interview all the agents in the area to find out who is the best fit for you. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the supply and demand numbers for Almaden Valley for November of 2009. This includes, like we're looking at now, the inventory numbers. And the inventory numbers are actually looking pretty encouraging. We've got a decline from 2008, which is good. In 2008, we really spiked. The market hit Almaden Valley a little bit in 2008, not as much as a lot of other areas. We actually saw property or inventory numbers drop by 28.57% from November of 2008 to November of 2009. That's 28 fewer homes on the market than there were last year. That gave us a grand total of 70 homes currently on the market in Almaden Valley. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the new listings. Relatively flat performance when compared to last year. Not a whole lot of change. It's down 3.85%, but that's only one home different. So we have one fewer home listed in the month of 2009 than in the month of November in 2009 than at the same time last year. Now, if we look at the total number of homes sold, this is far more encouraging, and this is a great number to see, particularly since we're seeing the number of folks. When you look at this all together, this is a very encouraging picture for Almaden Valley, because not only are we seeing very flat listing performance and a decrease in inventory, but we're seeing a dramatic increase in sales. Now, sales are actually up 120% in Almaden Valley in November of 2009 when compared to the same time last year. That's a dramatic increase. That's 12 more homes sold than at the same time last year. That gave us a grand total of 22 homes sold in Almaden Valley in November of 2009. Now, as I usually like to do, what we do is we compare the inventory numbers to the sold numbers to give us a ratio. And that number tells us two things. One, how many months of inventory we have currently on hand, and that number stands at 3.18. And that tells us it would take just a little over 3 months, if these numbers froze as they are right now, it would take us about 3 months to sell off everything currently in stock. And that's excellent. That's considered to be a pretty strong market. If you look at it another way, if you're someone trying to get your home sold, for every 3 homes that sell, or for every 3 homes on the market, 1 home sells. So that's sort of a competition index, really, for sellers. It also sort of tells you that things are a little bit tighter. Buyers maybe need to act a little bit more quickly in the Almaden Valley market than in some other markets. When they come across a house, there's more likely to be more competition for each house, seeing as there are simply fewer homes on the market, given the overall number of sales and inventory. Now, last month, that number stood at 2.96, so it's not quite as robust as it was last month. However, we're heading into the winter season. That's, I think, to be expected. What's interesting is that we beat the county ratio of 3.31. So we're really outperforming the average for the county in Almaden Valley. I think that's fine. Almaden Valley is showing itself to be a very robust market. Still, some good deals can be had in Almaden Valley, but as you'll see here in a moment, a lot of the influences of the down market just aren't really affecting Almaden Valley right now. Now, let's look at those same supply and demand numbers just over past months. Because the sample numbers are so small, this is often not a great way to judge what's going on. It's the trend line is definitely something you want to pay more attention to. But you can see the dip in December of 2008. You'll see the same sort of dip this year. This is a standard wintertime dip in inventory. Inventories always tend to go down. Now, notice how much this goes down. As it relates to just the typical amount of stock or inventory that's in hand. Now, if you've looked at any of my other presentations, you'll probably have noticed that this dip is less dramatic in other areas. Now, the reason why I point this out is that this is a discretionary thing. This is a decision a seller makes to take their property off the market for the November-December timeframe for the holidays. When you see more folks doing this, it indicates that more of these folks are selling their homes in an at-will fashion, meaning they don't have to get this home sold. If they absolutely have to get their home sold, they leave it listed through the winter months. So when you see a much more dramatic drop in the wintertime, that usually indicates that these are folks who are still fairly comfortable in whatever situation they're in. They're moving out of a need rather than a must type situation. And I think that's reflected here in some of these numbers relating to the inventory in Almaden Valley. Now, the inventory is down 15.66% between October and November of 2009. That's 13 fewer homes in the inventory this month than last month. So that's also good news and also typical, to be honest, for the time of year. Okay, homes added to the market. Let's take a look at that. It's when compared to last month. Now, we're down 45.65%. That's 21 fewer homes listed in the month of November than in the month of October. Again, if you look back to last year, that's fairly typical. You usually get a boost of listings going through those summer months, and then it usually starts to taper off right around October, November, and then drops to its bottom point, usually in the December timeframe. I would guess we're seeing the same sort of trend here, and I don't see any reason to expect that we'll see a change in that. And again, see both of these numbers are heading down, and that's what we really want to see. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the sales numbers. You can see sales really started to ramp after the new year of 2009 without really much stop there. Not a little hesitation there in August, but it really continued right on through until we hit the winter months. Compare that to last year, where things were a lot more subdued. We didn't get quite the level of sales that we got this year. If you look at November of last year, you can see that was really coming off of a fairly weak October. Last year's October was also fairly weak. September was particularly weak last year, but look at September of this year, a big dramatic increase. So overall, the month-to-month trends, you don't want to pick just one month and make that a reason to get optimistic. But when you start to see the trend we're seeing that's pretty clear from February right on through till September, that's a good indicator of a fairly robust market. So I think it's a good sign for Almaden Valley. Now, as I said, listed homes were down 45.65%. That was 21 fewer homes in November than October. Sales were down 21.43%. That was 6 fewer homes sold in November than October. Again, normal to see that sort of decline at this time of year, regardless of what market you're in. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what the short sales and foreclosures were doing. Now for this month, we had conventional sales making up 77% of the market, and that's very good performance. I'd love to see that even higher, but 77% when compared with a lot of other communities is still pretty good. Short sales made up 9% of the homes that sold. Foreclosures made up 14%. Now last month, we saw 0 short sales. We had 96% of the homes last month were conventional homes. 4% were foreclosures. And then you know what? This is actually, even though 77% is excellent, that's still low for Almaden Valley when we look back historically on how the area has been performing. But it's high when compared to the rest of the county for conventional sales. So really, no matter how you break it up, even though this was a bad month for Almaden Valley, it was a great month when compared to the rest of the county. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at the home prices. That's obviously something folks are very interested in. You can see here we've definitely had a decline from 2008 to 2009. Not as dramatic as some other areas where over the last couple of years they've seen just dramatic drops in property values. Now, the average home price is down 26.14%, but that's really the entire nut of the decline. So about a 25% decrease overall in values in Almaden Valley, because we're not compounding it. If you'll look at the history here, you can see that we sort of peaked out in 2007. We really held our peak in 2008 as far as home prices are concerned, and really didn't see that drop until 2009. And that's been pretty typical for Almaden Valley. While other areas have had 35, 40, 50% decreases in property values, Almaden Valley's managed to come off with a relatively mild 25%. All right, now the average home price was $877,077. If we take a look at the median, you can see that's down 15.22% from last year. That's a $153,000 drop. The dollar drop in average home price was $310 and $310,343, and the median price was sitting at $852,000. Now, as I've told you before, where this median and average meet is sort of informative. Last year at this time, you can see that the majority of homes were selling far below the average price. This year, those two numbers are really sort of in line with one another. So the average, what the median tells you that half of the homes sold above the median price and half the homes sold below the median price. So you can see that we've definitely had things still emphasize a little bit at the lower end, but not so much. We've seen much more of a equal spread of properties being sold across the price spectrum. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the highest end. The median, we already talked about that, I'm sorry. The highest priced single-family residential home in Almaden Valley was at 1056 Woodview Place. That sold for $1.4 million. It was listed originally for $1.449, so only a $49,000 drop off of that price. Given the asking price, that's actually a very small drop. That was only on the market for 17 days. Now, the lowest priced single-family residential home in Almaden Valley was 1431 Redmond Avenue. That sold for $690,000. That was a short sale listing. It had originally been listed for $940,000, and it was on the market for 242 days. The first price was set in February of 2009. It was obviously wrong. Just looking back on the data, when I go and I look back at the sales data of that time, I think this particular property suffered from poor pricing at the outset. I'm not sure what would have contributed to that, but definitely a seller who hadn't really found out what was going on as far as competition with other properties and what properties were selling for at that time. Now, the average price per square foot stood in November at $417.21. Last month's average price per square foot was $429.35. Let's go ahead and take a look at these same numbers over past months, see what sort of fluctuations we've seen. Average price, again, clearly doing the downswing. Interesting here to note that we've got a little bit of a dip there in the January, February, March, April, May time frame, with a little bit of a recovery after that. We had a couple of months, February and March, that sort of peaked out. But in general, we start off a little bit high and then sort of swoop down a little bit and then start coming back up a little. Does this really tell us anything about where prices are going to go? It really depends on how the market continues to perform in Almaden Valley. I think that I think the general message to take from this is that we're just seeing a general decline. Now, the price change from October to November was a decrease of 16.66%. That's a dollar change of $175,289. The median, again, was at $852,000, and from October to November, that amount decreased 13.94%. That's $138,000 lower than in October. We had a total of 22 homes that sold in Almaden Valley. And there's really nothing more to learn from this. I really think this is just the general trend here. The general message is average home price is down. How much more will it go down? Are we at the bottom in Almaden Valley? We'll have to see. I think that if you want to listen to some of my podcasts, we talk about what the foreclosure situation is going to be doing, and I think that might play into this. I think we're going to see another flurry of foreclosure properties, and that may have an impact, if for no other reason than to steal buyers from this marketplace. The foreclosure situation might affect this and force prices to go down further. All right, days to sell. How long is it taking to get homes sold in Almaden Valley? Let's go ahead and take a look at that number. Now, this month it stood at 91 days. That was an increase of 28.17%. That's 20 more days to get a home sold in 2009 than in 2008. The lowest days on the market was 4, and the highest days on market was 508. So that number is artificially a little high there, just given that we had one property out of 22 that was at 508. That's going to skew those numbers. And check this out. Longest days on market, 508. The next highest was 246. So that one property is way out there. I think that if we were to eliminate that property, we'd probably see this number sitting a lot closer to last year's number. I think the 70 to 80 day time frame is probably pretty reasonable. But let's go ahead and break this down so you can get an idea of the sort of time bands where these properties are getting sold. Now, no properties sold in 0 days, meaning no properties sold before they went into the multiple listing service. 3 homes sold in 1 to 7 days, 6 homes sold in 8 to 30 days, 5 homes sold in 31 to 90 days, 4 homes sold in 91 to 180 days, and 4 homes sold in 181 days or more. Now, 40% of the homes that sold did so in 30 days or less. So 40% of the homes selling in less than 30 days is outstanding. I think that any seller who's going out there to get to market their property right now, as long as you're doing it intelligently, you're working cooperatively with your agent, do the right things to get the marketing information to the potential buyers, and the home is in great showing shape, I see no reason why you can't get that home sold in under 30 days. Now, last month was 46% of homes sold in 30 days or less, so it's a bit of a dip. But that we're entering the slower market. November is just typically a slower market time. That's the way it works, and that affects really all of these numbers relating to getting properties sold. So, if you can afford to, obviously you're going to be in a better situation to get to better pricing conditions in 2010. One word of caution, though, with the foreclosure situation being where it is, it could really sour the 2010 selling season. So, if a lot of folks out there are thinking, I'm going to wait to sell my property till the summer of 2010. Really educate yourself on the numbers that are going on, particularly in your market, because it may be that there are a whole lot more foreclosure properties out there in the market that are going to do 2 things. First, give buyers a whole lot more choice on what to buy, creating more competition for you. And because of the prices that foreclosure properties tend to go to, really driving down the reasonable expectation on what you can sell your property for. All right, let's take a look at the days to sell in past months. See what sort of fluctuation we've seen there. Sort of reset itself, it looks like, there in March. Again, we get relatively small numbers of homes selling, so these numbers can skew quite a bit. So oftentimes it's best just to see what the normalized line there is. And it's been generally increasing, and I think given the market that we're in, that's a normal expectation. And this month, I think we can calibrate ourselves to the idea that 91 is really a little bit high. I think if we were to normalize that by eliminating that one property that had been on the market for so very long, it would be much flatter performance from, say, August to November as far as how many days it's taking to get properties sold. Now, the days to sell increased from October to November by 33.82%. That's 23 more days to get a property sold in November than in October. All right, now let's take a look at where these properties were located. I'm not seeing any odd clusters of homes getting sold here. It's a little interesting that we're not seeing a whole lot of properties getting sold on the west side of Almaden between Camden Avenue and then south down to Elwood. Really nice neighborhoods in there. I'm not sure, maybe there aren't a whole lot of homes on the marketplace in those areas, but really generally a pretty good spread of properties all the way from north near Jeffrey Fontana Park all the way down towards the south end of Almaden. Now, I do appreciate taking the time to listen to this presentation. I hope this is valuable information for you and helps you really get educated on what's going on in the markets that you're interested in. Here's all of my contact information once more. If you'd like to jot it down. I won't bore you by reading through it all again. But again, I hope you got some good information out of this presentation. I look forward to talking to you all next time.